expedition coordinator for this research cruise. Holy cow, it is our last broadcast of this project. So excited to be sharing it with all of you. Welcome to the Canadian Arctic outside of Prince Leopold Island. Send out those emojis. I know I can't hear you, but the likes, the smiley faces, the hearts, not these ones.
And in case you're wondering, I'm Zach Kerrigan, a
this
graduate
is.
student from the University of Rhode Island Graduate School of Oceanography and one of the science leads on this cruise.
And we're both here coming to you live from the Icebreaker Odin, which is currently in Lancaster Sound, right outside of Prince Leopold Island, a major breeding location for several migratory species of birds, of seabirds you might see flying by. Zach and I behind us here as we're standing on the helicopter pad of the Odin. And like I mentioned, this is our final broadcast for something that we call the Northwest Passage Project that we've been part of up here. We like to refer to it as
NPP.
And that's what we call it. It's been funded by the National Science Foundation, or NSF, as well as the Heising Simons Foundation. Over the course of this 18 days, we're in day 15?
15.
15.
3 more.
I've been with this guy for 15 days on this boat. Wow.
In eternal sunshine.
Eternal sunshine and Zach Kerrigan for 15 days. So 18 days is this innovative expedition where we have a multidisciplinary group of about 38 filmmakers, scientists, students, and we've all been up here exploring the changing Arctic together and also documenting our experiences in real time. And I still can't believe that it's been 15 days already that we've been out here, and this project is almost wrapping up, and about tomorrow we'll be heading north, and then we'll be in Greenland in about 2 or 3 days. So it's been quite the long haul. But, you know, as we've been doing a lot of different things on board the vessel, and I think what we'd like to do is share not only some of our scientific insights with you this evening, but also some of our personal insights as well.
Absolutely, that's right, Holly. Well, as for the scientific portion of the cruise, the NPP's goal in studying a changing Arctic is really focused around multiple focus areas, including changing ocean circulation,
Yep.
changing atmospheric and marine chemistry,
Yep.
and changes in the distribution and abundance of several marine organisms special to the Arctic food web, including microscopic organisms,
Yep.
seabirds,
Small and mighty.
and the big marine mammals.
Big and beautiful.
Right, so while I'm here on board with fellow colleague and grad student Jacob Strock and an absolutely amazing team of undergraduate researchers focused on the microscopic communities, really all that we're doing here isn't about one focus group. There's, 30-ish scientists
Yep,
on board,
30-ish.
and 30-ish, and all of us are studying together to understand how the Arctic is changing and really the planet.
Yeah, and so I think it's pretty apparent. We can all agree that we've been out here exploring the changing Arctic, but also our efforts, they've changed us here. You know, you think about, especially with your team, some very long nights of continuous sampling, working in the lab.
They're fine. They're fine. No matter what their blog posts are saying, they're all okay.
And then we have our interactive broadcast. We've had great audiences at the Exploratorium, the Alaska Sea Life Center, the Smithsonian, as well as other Facebook Live events. And then we've had animal sightings, everyone stampeding to the bridge when you hear the word polar bear. And then also there have been all the shore visits that have really been quite special. So
And we still have a big one. I mean, not a shore visit. We still have some excitement left. This isn't quite the end, right?
No, not quite the end. We're going to actually be doing some Zodiac trips over to Prince Leopold Island, which will be pretty exciting. But they've all impacted us differently. And so I actually want to introduce you all to Kevin Montenegro. If you've been with us for any of our broadcasts, Kevin, why don't you say hi to everybody here on Facebook?
Hey guys,
Where are you from?
I'm from Florida International University in Miami, Florida.
So he's been a little bit cold during this expedition, just a tad. And so, Kevin, when we went to Beachy Island, so Beachy Island is a historic location, and why don't you tell us what was so special and what impact that experience had on you?
Well, just the flight to Beachy Island was awesome because we saw plenty of wildlife on the way there. Our pilot spoiled us biologists and did a few extra rounds just so we could take a look at them. But yeah, landing on the island was really surreal because I had always read stories. We had an historian on board, Hester Bloom. She told us about it too. And
I love that you just made a shout out to Hester, who we hope is watching today.
That's awesome. And it has a lot of cultural significance to the people that live here in the Arctic, but it also has a lot of historical importance because as people who know the story know, a lot of sailors from the Franklin expedition were actually buried there on that island. It was an expedition in the 19th century to find what was the fabled Northwest Passage at the time. And, you know, they didn't, as the story goes, they didn't heed the Inuit community's advice on how to traverse this area. And their voyage tragically ended, and a lot of the crew passed away facing these harsh conditions, and some of them were actually buried on Beechey Island. So we got to see those graves, and, you know, looking at them put a lot of things in perspective, because, you know, we're here on a big, powerful icebreaker with computers, and it's still difficult to get through this area. And it gave me a lot of respect to, you know, people who tried going through here, and also the Inuit community that have been living here for thousands of years and are able to live here. And so, and I actually kind of had a first-hand experience as a scientist, because we had Inuit scientists come on board, known as the Karvik scientists, and we were sharing our findings with them, and we thought we saw a discovery, but they actually shed light on it and shared some of their local knowledge, and we didn't know we didn't have any idea about it. So it just goes to show how important it is to bridge local knowledge and outside knowledge, you know, as researchers, explorers, or anybody that's interested in coming to the Arctic.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kevin. That high fives, dude. Love it. That was really fantastic. So, who are you again? So Zach, it's really about that experience, right?
Absolutely, it is about the experience, and importantly to remember is experience isn't different than the science. Every scientist, researcher, explorer draws from their personal life stories, right? They bring that background as they go out and they seek answers, they seek these scientific questions, and they want to build that knowledge about the world around them.
Yeah, we actually have a question coming in from the Facebook group, which is fantastic. You can type your questions in the little comment feature underneath this video. Deborah wants to know, how fun is this trip?
Would you like to answer that?
Both? Okay. This trip has been super fun. As you can imagine, just coming to the Arctic it's such a strange experience, because I'd only seen it on TV, but, you know, coming here, meeting all the great people that live here, and, you know, seeing all the wildlife that I'd only seen in, like, documentaries, it's been amazing. But not only that, but, like, living just on the ship with all your, like...
In front of a helicopter?
In front of helicopters.
2 helicopters.
You know, just like the crew is really fun, and the team is, and, you know, we've all gotten along, and it's just been fun. It's like basically a small family here on board.
I would say that even though, you know, 18 days, it doesn't seem like that long, but I would say that we were all clicking and became one really big family within several days.
Yeah.
I mean, and some of us are spoiled that we were together last year as well, so it was like a big reunion for about 8 of us, which was really 8 or 9 of us, which was kind of nice as well. So, all right. So when we're talking about fun things, I'm going to actually hand that back over there to Zach. We're going to mosey on down here. So, Erica, one of the things that you said was fantastic for you that might have been considered fun as well, that had an impact on you, was when you went out ice sampling. Yeah. So could you tell everybody there in Facebook Live land about your ice core sampling experience?
Of course. Thank you, Holly. So, yeah, my name's Erica Schultz. I'm from Virginia Commonwealth University. Ice coring, there's a lot that goes into it. So, first off, we had to fly in and land on an ice floe, not to be confused with an iceberg, and we had to land that 11-ton helicopter. So of course we had to, you know, fly around to find something sturdy enough to hold all that weight, which of course gave us an adrenaline rush just knowing that was the case. And also, so once we started drilling, once we landed, a lot of the crew members, we were wearing these suits. So you can imagine, like, everything was like perfectly white, and so we like reenacted the first moon landing. It was kind of fun. And then once we started the drilling, that really fortified my experience as a scientist, because there's a lot of responsibility that goes into getting these kinds of samples. So that was something that impacted me a lot. And believe it or not, the temperatures were warm enough that one of our group members actually unzipped the top of this float suit and started working in their long sleeve t-shirt. So that was another impact for me. And yeah. We also drank some of the melt pond water after we finished off drilling 5 cores.
You were thirsty. It was a
yeah.
hard day's
It was
work, right?
a nice
So
sweet.
I think we're going to throw it to Facebook. If there's any other questions out there that we can answer, we'd be glad to answer some of those now. All right, so Margot is asking, what is the temperature like out here? I'll be honest, I've not looked at the screen recently. Has anybody looked? Does anybody know what the current temperature is?
I think it might have been around somewhere between 5 and 7 degrees. I think it's warming up, though.
Yeah,
It
so
was
5 and 7
earlier,
degrees,
but-
that's Celsius. So what is that in Fahrenheit?
Oh, gosh. High 40s?
Yeah, high 40s. We
low
were in like
40s.
crazy 50s yesterday. It was
Yeah.
like a very weird heat wave that we had. Another question from the Facebook Live. I wish Rick was here with us. So we got asked if we have spotted any shearwaters. That was actually what Kevin was alluding to, that we saw a sooty shearwater when we were actually first leaving Greenland, I believe, in transit. And sooty shearwaters are traditionally found along the eastern seaboard. You're talking about New England, Canada, etc., eastern Canada, not up here in the Arctic. But then the Carvik group let us know, we actually see sooty shearwaters all the time. So that was a really interesting discovery, and again, bridging that data gap. Now, Zach, when it comes to the science itself, there's a lot of different things that we've been doing. We talk about those different focus areas. The ice core sampling was one tool that we're using. What are some other science tools that your group and the other groups have been using? My group, the Birds and Mammals, we've been doing binoculars and a voice-activated data logging system, but these guys are the ones that have been using all the cool tools.
Right, and I think one thing really interesting about this cruise is often in oceanographic research cruise, you really have maybe a couple teams focused on a very specific goal, but because we have so many focus areas, we use a lot of neat tools and toys, as we like to call them. I think I'll start, probably one of the most iconic oceanographic research tools is what we call a CTD rosette. And all that means is we have a bunch of sample bottles attached in a circle to this large apparatus with a few instruments on board. And what that can do is we can lower that into the water, and as it descends through the water column, we're going to get physical and chemical information. So water salinity, which is how salty the water is, temperature, chlorophyll, so all the photosynthetic organisms. Once that gets towards, not on the bottom, but near the bottom, we can then decide which parts of the water look interesting. And as we raise that apparatus back up, we can individually close each of those bottles from right here on the ship.
And you close them on the ship? You don't get in the water to close those bottles? Erica's not going down in the water to go close the bottles.
No, don't listen to their blogs. We've sent no students into the water. No, it's just a simple click of the mouse and it shuts those bottles. But then we bring them back on board, and each one, physical, chemical, biological oceanography, we take those samples, we take them into our respective labs and start analysis on them.
Yeah, and so then there are some simpler tools that have been used. I always like the bucket on a string, which is legit
BOAS is what we like to call
a bucket
it.
on a string that they're using to take surface measures of the surface waters. They literally throw a bucket over the side, and then there are the nets.
They lower a bucket over the side.
Okay, they lower it. They don't throw it. Sorry, I'm not lower. They lower the bucket. And then they also are using nets. So plankton nets were a little bit bigger than the nets that you guys might have at home to do some sampling at the beach when you're looking for small fish, or if you're skimming leaves off your pool. So there are those simple tools, but then there are
there's all kinds of stuff. We have microscopes, and we have drones, and we have cameras, and we have, again, nets and buckets and...
Oh, my.
Oh, yes.
I don't think we're in Kansas anymore, right, guys? No. So this expedition, it's been a lot that we've had going on, a lot of different techniques, a lot of different research methods. Zach is being very kind right now to not go into the details about DNA sampling and all the different...
I can. If there are any questions about genomics out there, bring them.
But when we're talking about the whole experience, I want to move on down here to Christian. So Christian Kopka, you can go ahead and say hello to everybody there. Otherwise known as Iceman, because this is like literally a young Val Kilmer, if anyone knows Top Gun. How has this overall experience? You had made a comment, I think, that you had thought that it would take, 3 weeks for you to realize how great this experience was going to be, and in the end, it only took a couple of days.
Yeah, it only took actually a couple of days because actually I was on the expedition last year, and just coming back, just being reunited with some amazing people. Just for a few days, just sparked that candle like that I had back then, just like of just feeling amazing, and just like over a few days, first week, just being with an amazing crew, just really like it reinforced. It made an impact on me, and I also just wanted to say that during those few days, were just stepping out of your comfort zone, stepping out of my comfort zone was the main point that made me what was it? I keep on forgetting. That just impacted me because I think it's important to step out of your comfort zone and experience new things in life. And I think one thing that really reinforced it was when we have a wonderful expedition coordinator who is Osa and Lars, when they went out on the ice to recover an acoustic mooring line.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive.
That was impressive, but just that dedication and determination to go out on the ice, which we know what we're talking about, but just that amazing leadership, just it really makes an impact on you. And I think that I really value that experience, and it's something that I really want to dedicate my life to, just seeing what they did. And hopefully I'll still work with them if they still are there at SPRS, if I actually gain some experience. So, yeah.
You got a ways to go. You're only 19, dude, but you'll get there.
The youngest.
You're
Okay.
not the youngest. Tristan's. Oh no, you are the youngest. He
The
is.
chef is the youngest.
Oh.
I forgot. Yeah.
All right. So we actually have another question coming through from Facebook Live, and they wanted to know. It's Cindy, which I'm actually wondering if it's my sister Cindy, and she was asking about what the most exciting or unexpected wildlife sighting was so far. I know which one it is for me, but I don't know if there was one for you.
Actually, no. I mean, when Hester was still here, we spotted the polar bear, which I actually didn't see, but seeing the polar bear in the picture that she airdropped to me, now I can brag that I saw it.
No, for me it was. So Mia Atokiak is one of our Inuit early career scientists who is out here with us. And the other day, so I'll openly admit that the Inner Space Center production team has a competition going, because if you know me, I am incredibly competitive. I own it, as to who could find the most marine mammals over the next week or so. And I'm happy to report that the marine mammologist that was in our group, that would be me, was leading with 30 points. And I was out on the side looking at a seal. Seals were worth 1 point. And Mia was confirming that it was a seal. And then she looks with her bare eye and she's like, I think that's a walrus. And I'm like, I think you're crazy. And so she's like, no, I think it's a walrus. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the sauna. And so she's like, I'm going to go up to the bridge to the spotting scope. And sure enough, it was a walrus. Unbelievable that she saw it with her naked eye, and then she actually found it in the spotting scope. It turned its head. You could see its tusks. And so once we saw that walrus, one, she got 50 points. But two, that meant that we saw all the marine mammals that we should see up here in the Arctic, which for me was awesome and completely mind-blowing.
Now, wait a minute. Like every one of these broadcasts, we talk about polar bears and walruses, right? Bearded seals. It's so exciting. Well, yesterday, we took one of those sophisticated nets, lowered it over the side,
Lowered it, didn't throw it.
pulled it back in, and I got to watch a pteropod swim around in a petri dish. You want to talk about charisma? You watch one of these tiny marine organisms swim around in a petri dish.
What is
and
a
that was
pteropod?
a sea butterfly.
A sea butterfly.
A sea butterfly. It's a beautiful small mollusk.
A mollusk.
A mollusk that swims around in the ocean, part of the plankton that is so important to us, but also beautiful. You got to remember, some of these microscopic organisms are gorgeous. Some of them make their bodies out of glass. All right, so yes, polar bears and bearded seals are all wonderful, but most of the beauty is in those tiny little creatures right at the base of that Arctic food web.
Wow, that was beautiful, Zach. Thank you for being the advocate for small and tiny. Do we have any other questions out there from the world of Facebook? Awesome question. So this is from Cassie. She'd like to know if the group is going to get together after the expedition is done to talk about and review the data that's been collected. And the answer is yes.
Yes.
One of the things that we receive funding for from the Heising Simons Foundation is to actually have a post-expedition workshop of sorts. So I'm super excited that we'll all get to be able to get back together again after the expedition and talk about data once it's been processed, talk about some results, just catch up again after we've kind of gone back to life not in the Arctic, which seems like a really foreign thing. I know I'm super excited to go home and see my family, but see, I'll start crying. But to miss these guys as well, it's been quite an experience. And to save myself, I'm going to throw it back and see if there's another question from Facebook right now. All right, so this is from Hester. Let's all give Hester a big old hello, Hester.
Hello,
we
Hester.
miss you. She wants to know what's the food like now that she's gone.
So much better.
It's still rocking.
So
We still have lingonberry.
yeah, we have not run out of lingonberry. So this is a Swedish icebreaker. So the food has been, and I guess in the land of Swedish cuisine, it's been a little different than what you might be used to. So for breakfast, if you like ham sandwiches,
ham and cheese
yeah,
sandwiches.
ham and cheese sandwiches. But otherwise, it's been
And
fantastic.
we had dessert we had ice cream and pancakes for dinner.
Yes.
So
crepes,
sandwiches for breakfast.
crepes
Pancakes
for
and ice cream
dinner. Yeah, it's not a bad life that we're living here on board the Odin for sure. Yeah, we had Swedish meatballs and mashed potatoes for lunch with lingonberry sauce. It was really tasty. So they feed us well, which is always important when you're out doing research on an expedition such as this. Alex, do we have another question there? excellent. All right, I'm going to give you the mic so you can answer this after. Christian, I was like, who are you? See, this is what happens when you have 24-hour daylight. What is it like having 24 hours of constant daylight?
It's wild. It's absolutely wild. I can't tell when to go to sleep, to be honest, so I have to close the curtains. But other than that, it makes you want to stay up all night and appreciate the views because, actually, I bought like 9 memory cards, like each 128 gigs, and I just want to waste it all. I just want to stay up all night looking at. But I mean, at some point I have to go to sleep. But you know what? I
don't think we go to sleep. I have a hard time myself. I'm not usually a night owl, but I'm usually up until about 2:30, and then waking up at 7 the next day and pushing through days. I know that you guys have been up super early on crazy rotations and.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to tell because again, you're working and you're thinking, okay, we're getting stuff done. Does anybody have the time? Yeah, it's 11:30. What?
Yeah.
So it is a bit disorienting. I mean, it does help keep that little. What shall I call it? Little production line we have going on in the lab, just kind of churning and burning, right? When the lights don't go down, the energy keeps going. So we're getting a lot of good science done, not just taking pictures, but that's important too. But we're getting a lot of samples taken and a lot of processes done too.
Alrighty. So this is going to be our last question. It's about ice observations. Do we know if there's more ice this year than there was last year?
Oh, I'm gonna have to harken back to one of those charts that we saw earlier.
I
can't. It's going back and forth. This is definitely not the lowest ice extent we've had. We're somewhere in the middle.
Right.
We're somewhere in the band and the average band right now. Importantly, what's really interesting is to watch the way things are shifting and the different kinds of ice we've gone through, whether some of the first-year ice, which means it was just created this past winter, or the multi-year ice, which has come from other parts possibly of the Canadian archipelago. Oh, I got that one out.
There it is.
So that's been really interesting. Probably won't know until past the season exactly how far down. I mean, we haven't reached minimal ice extent yet, so that'll be something to look forward to. It'll be something to look forward to because we'll be able to tie that into all the data we're collecting here.
Yeah.
So that will be good information to have to kind of bring it all together.
All right, so that's our last question. You know where to go, dude. So, on behalf, this is where I'm probably going to break down and cry. So, thank you so much for joining us today, but not only for joining us today, but all along this expedition. This project has been 3 years in the making, and there's been a lot of people that have put effort into it to make this happen, and it's just crazy awesome that it's finally done. I can't believe this is I told you I was going to lose it, that this is the last broadcast, and that we were all here together to share this with all of us, to have this experience, but to not only have it ourselves, but share it with all those audiences in the Smithsonian, at the Exploratorium, at the Alaska Sea Life Center, but all of you to connect with us on what we were doing. It's so important not only to conduct the science, but also to communicate it, because otherwise nobody else is going to get jazzed about the Arctic unless you're along for the ride with us. So thank you so much to all of you. Thank you to everybody at the Inner Space Center. You guys know who you are. There's a whole shoreside team that makes this interactive broadcast happen. Thank you to Jessica, who's on the other side of that camera and has been holding that camera for all these broadcasts. Thank you to Eric. Thank you to Eric, who's in the van, who's been standing in a cold van during all of these broadcasts, freezing God knows what off, and just has been amazing. Jess, come over here with me. So here she is. She's been the magic behind the camera. Eventually, I'm hoping Eric Grubel pops out so that you can see the magic that was happening. He's controlling things from the van. But again, thank you so much for being here with us. This is all that makes us happen. I know I'm babbling. My family will say this is what I do all the time.
And keep following us. We still have a few days left, so follow us on social media,
Thank you.
Twitter, follow our website. Keep following Facebook. Let us know how you feel about it. We're still here. We still have a few days left, and we still have some more adventure and science to take place.
But until next time, I want you all to say it with me. Keep it cool.
Take the silence, Baymax. Yeah. Are we trending yet?
There appears to be a strange creature off the starboard side.
Canadian art.